How cool would it be to be able to go back to the 1980s to a car stereo shop and be able to pick something off the shelf? Well, recently, thanks to old school car audio restorations, we were able to do just this from a car audio shop that was going out of business. We got 4 different amplifiers, brand new old stock from the 2000s, 90s, and including this Sherwood that we're going to show you today from the 1980s. Let's see what it's all about. And here we have it, the Sherwood SCA-2100. Let's find out about this amp. We go back to the Audio Magazine, July 1983, car stereo directory. We'll see 2 amplifiers listed for Sherwood, including the SCA-2100 for $199. That's equivalent to about $620 in 2024. Again, this amplifier is brand new, old stock. These were made from approximately 1983 to about 1989. And I believe it was actually Sherwood's first amplifier they ever did for the car. When I mean amplifier, separate amplifier. And here you can see we have the manual. Yes, it's a little bent up, but we actually have the manual. And I've got all these pages scanned. If you'll check a link in the video description, I'll have a link to it on archive.org. So you can download that if you like to see the manual. It even came with a patch cable, RCAs. So you can hook it up to your head unit. And here you go. Crispy, fresh, and new from 1983. The Sherwood 70 plus 70 is what they call it on the outside. The SCA-2100. Not really sure where they came up with that model number. But anyway, this amp is a chunky monkey. 9.7 inches for the length, 8 inches for the width, 3.7 inches for the height. Yes, compared to this Sody Pop can, gives you an idea of the size of this amplifier. But just ultra cool looking, definitely 80s style. Let's take a look at the end panel. Here you can see we got speaker outputs, we have power, ground, and remote, and we have 2 fuses. Now also have the serial number and made in Korea. That's right, South Korea back in the day. Now this amp uses these push terminals for the speakers. Works with about up to 16 gauge speaker wire with no problem. Just push it in and let it out. And there you go. Very oddly, the amplifier has 2 different size fuses, a 25 amp and a 3 amp. And according to the manual, one is the main and one is for the switching power supply. I've never really seen that before. It has about 10 gauge for the power and ground. And it comes with probably about 10 feet of length on those. Also has a yellow one for the remote turn on from your head unit. Again, very cool amplifier. Just so neat to see a 40-year-old amp looking like this. On the opposite side, we have things like the RCA inputs. Here on the left, a sensitivity switch from high to low. Also a sub-bass equalizer, which is 60 Hertz, 12 dB when you switch that on. And then we have the option to bridge the amp in mono or run it in stereo. When you bridge it to mono, you can choose either the left channel for the input or the right channel for the input. Here are all the goodies that come with this brand new old stock Sherwood from back in the day. Now, unlike many amplifiers today that boast fake numbers on the amp, this one's actually rated 70 watts by 2 at 4 ohms or 140 watts bridged at 4 ohms. So you know what we got to do, right? Yes, we do. Fire up the SMD Demo Engineering Amplifier dyno so we can test out this 40-year-old amplifier. On the left, you'll see the power output in watts. In the middle, the ohm load. On the right, the voltage of the dyno. We'll also have the remote clamp so that we can calculate the amplifier's efficiency.
All right. Let's do this.
First test, 4 ohm stereo rated 70 watts by 2. Again, this is a 40-year-old amp. We haven't replaced any caps or anything, just FYI. Certified test takes us up to 1% distortion. Can we get to 70 watts by 2? Yes, we can! 70 and 74 at 14.25. We're going to skip right over to the dynamic test. You'll see why when we show the results. Dynamic test, 1 kilohertz, pulse track, over 80 watts, about 84 watts average at 14.36. Next up, we're going to try 2 ohms. Now, according to the manual, it says it's only rated at 4 ohms, but it's rated for bridging at 4 ohms, so that means 2 ohms per channel. So let's see what we get here. Certified, we get about 86 watts average per channel at 14.18. Nice. Now let's try the dynamic test and check this out. We're busting 130 watts plus. Look, 141, 135 at 14.28. Nice. Now let's take this little blocker off here so that we can actually bridge the amp. We're going to switch it up to use the left channel. And here we bridged mono on the amp. The left positive is negative and the right positive is positive. So 4 ohms mono, it's rated 140 watts. Let's see what we get. Certified 1 kilohertz to 1% distortion. Easily get that 140. We got 184 at 14.23. Now let's try the dynamic test. Again, the 1 kilohertz track. See what we get. Yeah, boy. We're closing on 300 watts. 276 at 14.28. What you have to remember is there's very few subwoofers back in the early 1980s, so these were most likely running 6x9s or something like that. Here are all the results. You can see the efficiencies are not very good. This is a Class AB amp. We showed the 8 ohm test here as well, also bridged the 8 ohm test. Efficiencies are in the mid 40s to the mid 50s, which is not shocking. It is shocking the amp made it through the test though. Now let's take off the 6 screws here on the top of the amp. This is super easy to see the internals of this one. I love being able to get to the insides very easily. So let's take off all 6 of the screws and take this top plate off. The Sherwood 70 watt plus 70 watt. That's what I'm talking about. Fingerprints all over the place. Thank you, FBI. You can't have those. And here we have the internals on this 1980 Sherwizzle. Here you can see on the rails we have 4,700 microfarad 35 volt capacitors, which again haven't been changed. Also on the power supply section, 16 volt. And these are Sam Haas. Hi, Sam. And then we have, see all the different components here, including the transformer, some wiring. I also think it's really cool the way they kind of divide the amp into 2 different sections. The power supply section here is on the left. The output and the input adjustments are on the right. Now, as far as outputs, A1265Ns and C3182s. These are PNP, NPN Toshiba transistors, 100 watts, so there's 1 per channel. Also on the power supply, Sanken C2491s and the TO220 encased enclosures. There's 4 of those. And we'll do a flyover here of the amp. Again, you can see all its awesomeness. Again, technicians out there are cringing. They're saying you should have recapped this amp. I know, I'm going to get it recapped. But yeah, here, and the fins on this thing, man, are so sharp, they will cut you. They are sharp as a knife, so be super careful if you ever get one of these, or you can just use it to cut your steak. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this Sherwood SCA-2100 from back in the mid-1980s. Check a link in the video description to all the other 3 amplifiers we've already tested. Thanks again, as always, for watching. Until next time, Big D, I'm out of here. Let's try the Sherwood bridged at 40 hertz, 4 ohms, certified, 1% distortion. See if we can get that 140 watts it's rated. Yes, we can. 165, 14.22. Now we'll try the dynamic test at 40 hertz. 4 ohms, 40 hertz dynamic, Sherwood. There we go. $263, 14.34.